11 past 8 this morning here at 2FM. A very good morning to our Darbo Regional Mayor, Matthew Dickerson. Hello, sir.
Good morning, Brett. Great to be chatting to you again.
And you, looking fantastic in your tie and suit. Have you dressed up for a special reason this morning?
To see you, Brett. What other reason would I possibly need to get dressed up?
I'm going red, mate. I'm going red. Hey, a special signing of a memorandum of understanding this morning between CSU and Darbo Regional Council. Why is it so important to have this document signed?
It is important just for the intent. Now, we used to have an MOU back in the old Dubbo City Council days, and that was something that was an ongoing process, but every 3 years or 5 years you'd renew that. For whatever reason, that's been let expire, and I know when I came back in as mayor, I went through a whole range of things just to see where things were up to, and one of the questions I said was, where's our MOU with CSU up to? How often do we meet? Who do we meet with? And I got some blank looks back. And it appeared that the MOU just had expired and no one really worried about it. So I said, well, let's get that back up and going. So that went through council last month in terms of the council meeting, the official MOU. We'd done some negotiations before that. But really what it's about is just making sure that there is an agreement that we are aware of each other, that we help promote each other. So when Charles Street University is out there in the university world, they're talking positively about Dubbo, they know what's going on in Dubbo, and we're the same when we're talking to people, potential new residents, for example. Hey, bring your family out here, we've got a university here, it's great to have a university presence in our city. So it's that type of thing, but I actually think it'll be even more important going forward because we've got the sports hub that will be going out there, and I think there were a few breakdowns in communication between council and CSU in some of those negotiations around that sports hub and access roads and a variety of things. And again, I think that's where an MOU would have probably solved some of those problems, because one of the things about an MOU is you have a regular meeting. So every quarter you have, for example, the mayor and the GM or the CEO, and they might meet with some people from the university. It might be the vice chancellor when the vice chancellor might be in the city, or it might be one of the relationship managers, but there's an ongoing relationship. So when some problems pop up, you can say, well, we've got this good dialogue and good relationship already. How about we just get this problem solved rather than having to start from scratch?
All right, so is it an official document? I mean, if you're in breach of the document later and, can either side get in trouble, or is this just like a written piece of paper that it's like a handshake agreement?
Well, it is an official document. It's gone through council. It's a council resolution, which I always treat any council resolution very seriously. It is serious when you've got a council resolution that must be followed. So it is a council resolution around that. In terms of what happens if we breach it, well, the whole idea of it is to work collaboratively with each other. If we don't do that, then yes, the opportunity is there to make a phone call and say, we agree to do this and you're not really doing it in that way, but the whole idea of it is to make sure that we've got that ongoing dialogue. So we're not expecting a breach, we're not expecting to be seeing someone in the Supreme Court or anything like that. It really is just about that relationship.
All right, well, good luck with that. What time is that? 9:30?
8:30. So as soon as I get out of here, I'm straight up to CSU.
All right, well, I better get going then. Geary water boil alert into the third week now of Geary residents needing to boil, but things have stabilised a little bit at the water treatment plant.
Yeah, that's right. So it is unfortunate. We do apologise to Geary residents for this particular situation. It all comes down to the turbidity. Now, the turbidity level that's acceptable by New South Wales Health is 0.5 NTU is the unit, or the unit of measurement. So we've had figures that have crept up to maybe 0.7, 0.8. Now, that doesn't mean there necessarily is a problem, but when you've got turbidity, which is basically the frostiness of the water, that means there could be something in there. Now, our staff have been working hard with the water treatment plant there. Now, the unfortunate part is that was built back in 1993. There wasn't any requirement at the time for a turbidity level. So you didn't measure it, you didn't need to worry about it. So obviously the plant was designed not with that in mind. Standards have changed since then, obviously, so we've had to backgrade that, upgrade that from the past and try and get that level there. And again, we've missed the mark 3 weeks ago. We reported that to New South Wales Health. They said we need to put a boil water alert on, and then we work with New South Wales Health to get to the point where they'll lift that. Now, we're hopeful. We've been running now for a couple of days below that level, so we're hopeful we'll be able to lift that boil water alert, but I'm not saying it, I'm not saying we're doing it yet. I just want to make sure that people are aware that we will be doing that shortly as soon as we get consistent levels and New South Wales Health gives us a green light.
Because you'd be ripping your hair out if you had a business or a resident of Geary because it's so frustrating, and I guess council understands that.
Yeah, and it's not like we're sitting around going, hopefully it'll get better by itself and everything will be fine. We've had our staff working away on that, working with New South Wales Health to try and fix that problem. Again, we've got in our budget for next year, if that budget goes through later on today, we've got $4 million set aside to do some major upgrades to the water treatment plant in Geary. But again, that doesn't help people today when they turn their
No.
tap on. So yes, it is frustrating for residents. We understand that. And again, as I said, we apologise for that. And it's a process that we've got to make sure that health is obviously a major concern. So have a shower in it, wash your clothes in it, wash your dishes in the water, but just don't drink it before you boil it.
All right, mate. Crossing fingers that clears up really soon, or at least people can start using the water again. Now, overnight, a statewide emergency order issued to control the movement of bees across the state and stop the spread of varroa mite. In fact, a property near Trengy will have authorities there today for containment and control activities to be carried out. Now, this is scary news for those people in the bee industry.
Absolutely, and we are very fragile in terms of our bee industry, our agricultural industry, foot and mouth disease, for example. I mean, there are possibilities of outbreaks that can be devastating for various industries. Now, with the bee industry, there's a whole range of bees that get taken to the almond plantations that we have here in Australia, and I think that's only about 4, maybe 6 weeks away before that occurs. Now, we're not going to be able to move all those bees around if obviously there's a freeze on bees in this state where they can move. So it's not just, oh, I might be able to get some honey tomorrow. It could have a major impact on the whole almond industry across this nation. That's a major export as well. People internally in Australia, but a major export. So it is a bit of an issue. Luckily, in this particular scenario, it's not council related, so I've got nothing to do with that on an individual level,
Sure.
but it just does give you an indication of how many moving pieces we have across our economy, across everything that we do, and some of those various parts are very fragile. So good luck to the state government there, and good luck to all those beekeepers out there to try and get on top of that one.
And we'll catch up with the Minister for Ag, Dougal Saunders, who's also our Dubbo MP here at 8:45 on the show this morning. Mate, you've got an extraordinary council meeting at midday today, and the making of rates and charges just one of the things on the agenda.
Well, that is basically the thing on the agenda. That's the whole reason for the meeting today, is to confirm our budget. Now, we've had the budget out on public display. We've had lots of submissions for that. One of the little trickier parts in amongst all that was that IPART, who sets the amount that we're allowed to put our rates up by, made an announcement many months ago and said 0.7% across the state. 128 councils across the state, you can only go to 0.7%. And inflation is at 5.1%. And so, as you can imagine, many councils said, hold on, how are we going to keep providing services to our community when we can only put the rates up by 0.7%? So the state government and IPART heard from many councils and said, you can, if you've previously advertised a higher rate rise, you can actually say, we'd like to go to a higher rate rise as previously advertised. Dubbo had previously advertised 2.3%. So we got permission to go to 2.3. 86 councils across the state got permission to go to a higher previously advertised rate. So today, when we meet, our councils will meet, one of the important decisions we'll make is, do we just leave rates where they are? Don't put the rates up at all. Or do we put them up by 0.7%, the original rate pegging amount, or 2.3%? We've been given permission to do that. Or somewhere in between. We can't go over 2.3, that's the maximum. So councillors could decide to go anywhere from 0 to 2.3. In fact, they could decide to go less than 0. They could put the rates down for everyone. I personally would think that wouldn't be the greatest move, because what I hear from people every day is, can you fix the roads? Can you fix the footpath? Can you build some new stuff, some new infrastructure, new things? Can you do new car parking, a whole range of things? Sometimes people do say to me, can you put the rates down? But more and more people tell me or ask me for extra things. Extra things cost money. So obviously I would think that it would be a bad economic move to put the rates down. And again, we're not in a council meeting, so I can't actually say which way I'm going to vote, because the decision will be made at the council meeting. But I would think it would make more sense to go forward with a rate rise that allows us to provide goods and services to the community and give them some of the things that they're after.
If you went for the full rate rise, how much money will that give towards roads?
So you'll get approximately $642,000 extra. That's by going from 0.7% up to 2.3. That's an extra $642,000. Now we've said if that rate rise goes through, that will be tagged specifically for roads, because that's what we hear a lot about. To give you an idea of the rate rise overall, so from what people are paying right now, if we went at the full 2.3%, that would put an average additional rate burden on the community, on the average ratepayer, of $26 per year. So it's about 50 cents a week extra that people would have to pay. So what I look at is 50 cents per week extra for people to give us $642,000. We could easily spend 10 times that amount on the roads, because the roads are in poor condition. There's no doubt about that at all. People tell me about that, and I say thank you for giving me more information, but I do hear a lot about the condition of roads, and I drive on our roads and I ride push bikes on our roads, so I am aware that they are in poor condition. And again, it really just comes down to money. I don't think there was a lot of strategic direction put in over the last few years to keep our roads up to a certain standard, so we're playing a bit of catch up now, and you've heard me talk about it before. We were left with a $20.3 million operating deficit from the last 3 years of the last council, so we've got to try and not only balance our budget, but we need to fill that hole in, and other holes being on the roads as well. So it's a tough financial challenge. And I had someone ask me the other day, what's the number one challenge I see on council at the moment? And to me, it is the financial performance of council. We've got to fix the finances before we can do anything else. We can't go out and do a whole range of wonderful things and promote Dubbo and fix our roads and talk about what a wonderful place we've got to live and build lots of new tourism centres and all the rest of it if we don't have the money. So the number one thing that we've got to do is fix the finances. Then we can start to plan some of those other things.
Well, we'd all like to have better roads, certainly, wouldn't we? But I know we're running out of time, but just quickly, from the last meeting that you held, a couple of name changes possibly resolved there. Tony Kelly Reserve, you know, that sort of still up in the air, isn't it? And also Dan Robinson as well, the scoreboard.
Yeah, I'll do the easy one first.
Yep.
Dan Robinson scoreboard. I think generally the process there, Dan Robinson, obviously, who died in England, his brother Bo lives here in Dubbo, and the community contributed some money to the family to bring Dan's body back from England. And a terrible story, the community responded very nicely, and with the extra money that was raised there, the family's been quite good, and they've donated some of that money to things around Dubbo, the excess money they had from the bringing Dan's body back. And one of the things they've done is they've built some sporting facilities, and that scoreboard there, having Dan's name on that, will be quite a nice tribute to Dan. Now, one of the things we did say, and that is, yes, councillors generally agreed that that would be a nice idea, but we've put that out on public consultation just because we want the community to have their say. The trickier one is the Tony Kelly one. Now, Tony Kelly, who was a former town clerk and then general manager of council, did a whole range of things in the community in his job, and did a very good job working in his job, but also outside of that involved in Sims Rugby League, for example, involved in a lot of sporting facilities. So he did great work around the community. But the idea of naming number one oval, Tony Kelly Oval, went through the last council. That went to the Geographical Names Board, as in a state board, and they had submissions coming from the community, and the community in the majority said, no, we don't want number one oval renamed. Now, the Geo Names Board came back, so that went through, and then the Geo Names Board said, but you could name Tony Kelly Reserve. So in other words, the reserve around number one oval could be renamed Tony Kelly Reserve. Now, councillors felt like that was almost a sneaky way to name the area when the community had already said no. So the councillors didn't feel comfortable with that. But naming the pavilion at number one oval, the Tony Kelly Pavilion, so the building there, councillors thought that would be an appropriate tribute because there's a lot of history around Victoria Park, number one oval. It's been called number one oval for near on a century, and so people are familiar with that, people associate with that, so the pavilion. But again, we've said, yes, councillors recommend we name the pavilion Tony Kelly Pavilion as a tribute to Tony Kelly, but put that out in public consultation as well, get the community feedback on that, and then that will go back to a future council meeting.
Dubbo Region Mayor Matt Dickerson, your MOU waits. So thank you very much for your time this morning, and enjoy your day.
Thank you, Brett.
Here at 2FM Brekkie, as we continue, this is In Excess now. And Jimmy Barnes, it's called Good Times, 8:24.